Okay, good afternoon. As you can see, we have today with us a real men's coach, and he's a man too. You're a real man, right?
I hope so, yeah.
So you're not a woman coaching man. You're a man coaching men.
That's right.
And so, do you have secret to tell men that you wouldn't tell a woman? Because as a
No,
woman,
yeah.
you don't want to tell your secrets to a woman, right?
Actually, no, I'm happy to tell all my secrets to women too.
Yeah.
I have nothing to hide, yeah, of
But
course.
if you tell me what you advise men to do, then I know this what they're doing, right?
Well, that's the beauty of it. I'm teaching men not to hide.
Ah, you tell them to be authentic.
That's right.
Ah, so that's good. There's no trick there.
Yeah, I what I'm teaching is helping men to take off their social mask and really be more authentic with their feelings, with their expression, and let go of having to pretend to be someone they're not. Like
Oh,
any ideas or concepts they have of what they think is attractive
mm,
versus just being themselves to help them really build self-esteem
yeah.
and confidence in just being themselves in front of the women they're attracted to.
Wow. Okay. So let's say somebody comes see you, and he shows a different personality to different women. He's an actor. What do you advise him to do?
Well, the biggest thing I'm going to advise men to do is really to connect with how they feel in the moment. So get really present in the moment, really take in the woman that he's seeing, that he's attracted to, and see what feelings come up.
Ah,
And get connected to those feelings and approach the woman by expressing whatever comes up in that moment.
oh.
So really relaxing into the tension of the feelings in the body and being open enough and vulnerable enough to say how he feels in that moment.
But he should never tell her that his real feelings.
Why is that?
I mean, maybe if he tell her right away, then he might uh, open himself too much and then lose her or something.
Well, that's okay. I think the most important part is that there is no losing and winning in these
It has to be
interactions.
real.
It has to be real. Ultimately, the more real you are gonna inherently get some people to say no to you, and that's okay.
Oh, okay.
But
After the first date.
yeah, or even on the initial approach of when you go
Ah,
say hi to the girl.
okay, okay.
But the ones that say yes to you are the ones that are gonna like you for the real you, the one that's not hiding anything,
Oh.
and that's when really deep connections can be made.
Could they be attracted in the first few minutes and then lose the attraction?
Of course, attraction is a feeling as well.
Oh, okay.
So
So it comes and goes.
it can come and go.
Ah,
I've found from my experience, the more congruent a person is,
yeah.
especially the man is, the more authentic he is, the more attractive he becomes. Because women rarely get to experience a man that will show his whole heart to her and
Oh.
without hiding.
Oh,
And I think a lot of guys grow up learning that it's
it's the
bad,
opposite.
yeah, it's bad to cry in front of a girl, or it's bad to show your emotion, or that you have to play tricks or have to act cool to get girls to like you.
Oh,
And they have these beliefs that they hold on to, and then as they get older, they
say-
try this stuff, and they do attract some women, but they attract the women that are just like them, hiding something from each other.
Oh,
But if you want to have deep connections, you want to have something that's more real, then the men have to take the first step and be open and real first. And that
Okay.
invites her to feel comfortable to also be open to him.
oh, okay, okay, okay. And you decide to do this because you are so successful with women, and then you can give tips to other men.
Yeah, I mean, successful is all relative. I do pretty well with women, mostly because
And you learned from your own experiences.
so I've learned from my own experiences. I've also worked with a few coaches myself that have
Ah.
helped me on my own journey, and
Ah.
so it was something that was tough for me growing up. I felt very insecure growing up, and
So you went to a coach.
yeah, and you know, after a while, I decided I was tired of feeling this way around women and feeling that I couldn't be myself. So I got some coaching, and I went on a journey of approaching many women, revealing my deepest.
And it it worked a little bit better.
Oh, of course, yeah. The more, and it wasn't so much that I was using it as a way, a technique to get girls. It started to become a way of freeing myself from all my limiting beliefs about myself, from all my deepest pains, and in doing so, I just started becoming more confident and grounded in myself, which, as a byproduct, I became more attractive to women.
Okay, and maybe you learned, pre-learned the stories that you had inside your mind are because you are from a different culture.
Yeah, it's possible. I think culture comes into play, but I
Yeah.
also think just growing up, there's a lot of different factors like parents,
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
schools, the
It
media.
depends if you have a successful family or it's a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, if I found that the people that I've worked with, most of the times their relationship with their parents is not usually founded in strong connected emotions.
Oh.
A lot of times I found that the men that I work with, and including myself, come from families where expressing emotions are not valued, or
Yeah.
expressing love
It's
to
not-
each other. It's not as
it's-
difficult.
Yeah, they don't.
And so kids, we don't really know much growing up. We're learning from our two role models, our parents. So when we see that the way they respond to us isn't showing maybe certain types of love or affection, or maybe is very angering or telling us limiting beliefs about how the world works, kids absorb that and they hold on to those as they grow up. And it's only when they become more aware as adults that something doesn't feel right inside me, they can start to unravel these limiting beliefs and these old feelings that they've held on to as children, to start to become more grounded in who they are and get more connected with their own raw authenticity.
Yeah, because some people are raised in a household where it comes very unnatural to say "I love you." They would never say it. And other American families say it like "Good morning." They say it all the time, like if it's a daytime word. So some people they take that word very lightly. They don't care. Like "Good morning," "Good night," "I love you," same thing. But some people would never say that in a million years in their family. So it's different upbringing then.
Yeah, the upbringing is one of the most important parts of how we evolve as children to adults. It's a lot of what we learn in the household that shapes our identity. And so definitely it's important that emotional intelligence from a young age, if you really want to build self-esteem, it's good to have a good ability to express your emotions from a young age.
Okay. Now, we are in an age of electronics, right? We're stuck on our phone or we're stuck on our computer. How do you break the ice? Or how do you break the screen? Because there's too much between people nowadays. It's a barrier, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Social media was created to, in some ways, connect us all, but in a lot of ways,
we're not connected.
It's disconnecting us from being present with each other.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people like post something on Instagram or Facebook, and they're hoping to get a bunch of likes to feel like they're getting approval from society, rather than seek actual connections with each other and build relationships with each other. And so it can be a challenge in today's world, but it's certainly very possible still for a man to walk up to a woman that he finds interest in a cafe or a grocery store, and just introduce himself and share his appreciation for whatever he liked about her, and see where it goes.
Okay, so that's the way to go to approach the person.
I think so. I mean, I think the masculine is usually takes the first step in the dance of seduction with the feminine.
Yeah.
And I think it's, if a man identifies as masculine, it's his duty to take that first step and be vulnerable enough to share his interest in the woman.
Oh, okay. So that's why Meetup was actually invented, the company Meetup, because they found out that people were behind their screen never meeting. So they invented meetup.com where people can meet actually in person. And it was very successful from the beginning.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Meetup. There's like another company called Living Social. There's several other companies like this that are
try to get people out of the house.
Get out of the house, get connected with each other again. And I think they're really good ideas. I mean, the more you show up in this world and put yourself out there, connect with people, the more amazing things can come to you in the universe.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You never know who you're going to meet next, right?
That's right.
Okay. Although in meetups, I never meet anybody that I connect with. It's basically strictly business or other things. I mean, I go to, meetups where it's not dating. It's just network after work. It's not social after work, But also, what I notice is 25% of people who go to these business networking are also there only to socialize.
Yeah, I found...
Did you notice that?
I did notice that. I find that a lot of people come to these events, maybe new to the city or looking...
they want to meet new people.
Yeah, and for them, it's just an opportunity to, see who else is out there in the world that's open and interested in meeting.
Okay.
And the context could be, a variety of things, but it feels like there's a lot of people, like you said, that are just coming open to socialize and see who are these people that live in the city that are here and willing to meet.
Yeah, that's why sometimes when I doubt the motive of the person being there, I say, just to clear the air, I say, what are you networking for? If they say, oh, I'm just here to have a drink and meet people, then it's from the beginning clear that they're not here to talk business at all.
Right.
They're here just to just have a good time, have a drink, and that's fine. That's fine. There's all kinds of people you meet at these meetups. And sometimes you meet people who are passing through the city for the week because they are just here temporarily on vacation or on a business trip. And they just want to meet people from the city.
Yeah, I found that as well.
Yeah, a lot of visitors. So you are from San Francisco?
Yeah, I've lived in San Francisco for the last 6 years. And I love it here. It's hard to leave. It's expensive, but it's just such a vibrant, diverse city.
So you come from the East Coast, no?
I grew up in South Bay, Cupertino, San Jose area.
Okay, it's quieter there?
It's more suburban life over there.
It's a lot of families and stuff?
That's right, yeah. A little bit more quiet family life over there.
Okay.
Doesn't have the same vibe of a city like San Francisco.
Okay, I'm glad you like San Francisco because, yeah, you're right. If you go downtown San Francisco, there's all kinds of people. Nobody is from San Francisco, and everybody learned, because we know everybody is not from the same city, we learn to accept each other. We know from the get-go that this person might be different, so we accept everybody the way they are.
Yeah, I love how the city's very open. I think it's a perfect place for me to meet other guys that are also open and ready to be more accepting of themselves and of others.
Okay. So you are a coach for men. Okay, so a man comes to see you and he says, I have a hard time getting a date, and you give him advice.
Yeah, well, I'll first want to get to know exactly what his challenge is, like where it is.
Okay.
And then I will help guide him and ask him some questions to bring him some awareness as to where his challenges are and where he's feeling emotionally blocked to express himself.
Oh.
And then I'll also take guys out with me and have them approach women that they're attracted to and express themselves very congruently and authentically based on how they feel.
More like in a social setting.
Yeah, it could be, usually I take them out in the daytime. So just walking out maybe around the mall or maybe around a park, just anywhere where there's people around so that they can let themselves feel the emotional tension in their body, learn how to feel and become aware of the different emotions that come up, and then go out and start expressing themselves to see that these ideas they have in their minds that this is some big deal, that this is some, something bad's going to happen, is not in reality. And so having them go through that experience.
People are nice.
They are. If you approach someone very honestly and congruently, you're not hiding your intentions, most people are receptive. Even if they're not interested, they'll appreciate the way you approach them. And they'll usually, if they're going to turn you down, they'll turn you down more kindly than if you're being fake or you have hidden agenda or hidden intentions. So that's been my experience, and I think the experience of a lot of the people that I've coached.
Oh, wow. So how did you get the idea to take him out on the field?
Well,
That's
that's the way I learned.
Oh, that's the way you learn.
Well, it's the best way to learn is not
Were you
through.
shy yourself?
Very, yes. I was not so shy in going out and just talking and socializing, surface level, but I was very shy when it came to expressing my deepest feelings.
Oh,
That
or
part
to ask
was
somebody for a date.
yes, because this fear I've held on to for a long time, and that I'm still processing and working through is if I share certain parts of me, I'll feel hurt or I'll feel rejected if they say no to me or they don't like the real me. And that's something I think a lot of people, men and women, are afraid of, is that if they show who they really are, how they really feel, that they might get rejected and it'll hurt them. So that's something that I had to go through and experience over and over again to see that it's okay to express yourself, and it's okay if someone is not interested in you. It doesn't change the fact that you're still alive, you still have your job, you still have your parents love you, you still have friends. Nothing changes from that experience. You just gain that experience and you can go on to the next one.
Oh.
Be more grounded in who you are.
Okay, or maybe sometimes they just have a crush on someone, and that's different than loving someone, right? Having a crush on someone.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. A crush on someone is just our concept in our mind of what we think of that person without really knowing them.
Right.
So when we have a crush on someone, it's more of an infatuation.
Right.
It's not like a real love that
Okay.
you see. It's just this thing that we think something of them without really knowing them, and we hold on to that idea thinking they're so great.
It's only the idea that you have of them, but it's not them really.
Correct. And that's where a lot of both guys and girls get stuck. They create these expectations in their mind of who this person is, and they put them on this pedestal. And they make them to be such this great thing, great person, that they're so afraid to go tell them hello or say hi to them or share their interest.
And the person is really simple.
Yeah, of course. We're all humans. We all have parts of us that we're insecure about. We have parts of us that we shine and we're proud of. We have different unique dynamics of us, and no one is quote unquote perfect in the sense of that they don't have some of these different aspects of insecurities, fears, doubts. We all have them. It's just how we treat them and how we respond to them that might be different person to person.
So to move from a crush to love, you gotta know the person a little bit more.
I think so. I think to get to a place of sharing love is really get to see the person behind their mask, because most people wear a mask out in the real world. They're scared to show who they are. So the way you can, find love is by you being open first and connecting with others that are also open with you and that share common values, share attraction, where there is that sexual chemistry, but also that you are able to connect with each other on your insecurities and your fears and your doubts and still love each other for those things. And that's where it becomes very powerful, that connection of real love.
Okay, so first there is the crush or the attraction, and then if there's at least a first date, then you decide whether you want to fall in love for real.
Well, I think every person is going to be a little bit different on what they're looking for. I think the love can come naturally the more open and honest you are with yourself and with the person you're with. That allows you to get a better understanding of what it is you're looking for, become more clear on that, and to see if this person is really aligned with who you are. So I find that it's an interesting concept because we are taught this idea of go out and find the one and get married and have kids, but not everyone wants that kind of path. People have different ideas of what love looks like and have different ideas of what relationships look like. And so I think it's important that we get clear on that ourselves by going out and expressing ourselves, being open and honest about what we want, and seeing which opposite sex people are aligned with what we're looking for. Because I think there's someone out there for everyone, and there's someone out there that's matching your type of relationship, your type of desires. Yes, I think so. So the more honest you are, the easier it is to find it, is by expressing it honestly and authentically.
Oh yeah. What about where people are kind of prearranged marriage? They don't. They love each other after they get married. That happens too, right?
It does happen. I find it. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
it seems to be less common than it was in the past. Um,
But it happens.
It still happens, yeah. It's an interesting concept, and I think if both those people are doing it out of choice and they're willing to do that, that's beautiful. I think if one of them or both of them are doing it from a place of feeling forced, then
that's not good.
It's not so nice. Yeah, it's because then they will maybe find regret later in life if they decided I didn't really want to do it in that moment. But if you do, then I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay. But love can come also after the marriage, right?
It can. I personally would not advise people to get married without
at least
having a connection, a deep connection, and really understanding the full range of who the person is that you're marrying. Just because it is quite the commitment you're giving to that relationship.
So your website is therealmasculine.com?
That's right, yeah, therealmasculine.com.
So the real masculine is somebody who just show himself as he is.
I look at masculinity as a few different principles. I think a man that has strong masculinity is very grounded in who he is a man that can step into different tensions and be able to relax into his emotions without being overly reactive. So he can handle different levels of tension really well. Okay. I think a man that's masculine is authentic, is really congruent with how he feels and expressive. Okay. And that really leads his life with purpose, with intention, and with a great deal of awareness for himself and for others. Okay. Yeah.
So... but there are different kinds of people out there. They cannot fit into your description. I mean, you described the real man, right? The real masculine. But people are different sometimes.
Yeah,
from that standard.
Yeah, so I look at there's principles, but there's going to be personalities that are going to be different. Right. So how these principles align with their personalities may show up differently. Right. But I look at things that are universal, like awareness. We all have this ability to be aware and to really go inwards and ask ourselves, who am I? What am I about? What do I like? And become clear on these things. I think that's available to every man. I think authenticity is also something that's available to every man, that he can go inwards and see how he feels in the presence of certain women, for example, or as friends or family, and be able to express himself and really take responsibility for his own feelings. And I think all of these help you become more grounded in who you are. So I agree that every man is going to be different from a personality standpoint, but I feel the principles that embody masculinity for men are universal and available to everyone.
Okay. So, like we were talking before we started recording, sometimes what wins a woman's heart is a man who's funny, or sometimes it's the looks, but that's very rare, like you said, right? The looks is like 10%.
You know, it's hard for me to put a percentage on it.
Yeah.
What I find with looks is looks matter more the higher your self-esteem is. So looks are good if you have high self-esteem, because that's going to mean more women are receptive to you and they're going to remain attracted to you because you have high self-esteem. But let's say you have low self-esteem and very good looks. Well, in the beginning, women may be more receptive to you, but once they see that you're highly insecure or you have low self-esteem, you're not able to really own who you are, they will lose that attraction for that type of man. So that's where the limitations of looks comes in, is looks may open some more doors for you, but it won't get you in the door and able to keep that relationship alive and strong. And that's where, building real self-esteem, becoming more grounded in who you are, having a good vibe is much more important in the long run of maintaining those kinds of relationships.
Is it true that looks is more important for a woman than for a man? I mean, the man, he just needs to be the breadwinner, and what's his important is his profession. But for a woman, she has to be pretty. So after a hard day work, he comes home to a pretty woman. Is it true that the looks is more important for a woman?
So I think are you asking do men care about the women's looks more than women care about the men's looks?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think biologically men when we look at women, the way we're wired, it seems to be that the physical attraction is definitely very important.
Yeah.
The way they look, their shape. I find personally for myself and for a lot of guys that I coach is the looks are important a lot more in the beginning, but as the relationship develops, looks become a little bit less important and who she is actually becomes more important. That's not to say that we're still not very attracted to her physical beauty,
Okay.
but I find that many men won't stay in those relationships if there's nothing but the physical beauty. If there's
Okay.
nothing else that she may offer from like her personality or her
Something.
that makes the relationship feel great besides the looks. Because looks is just skin deep. It's just the physical exterior.
Maybe for one night date.
For example, yes. I just find that, just like with men and and women, the personality and your ability to convey who you are, be real, share common values. These also become important as the relationships start to get deeper and deeper.
Also, I noticed that some married people start to look alike after a while. Is that because they married someone who looked like them, or is that because by being with them all the time they become to look like them?
It's funny you say that. I've noticed that as well. I have no idea why it is. Maybe it's just because they're in the same proximity and they start kind of taking on each other's behaviors and patterns and looks.
They become similar.
Yeah, and it could feel that way. I actually recently noticed that myself, but I'm not sure why it happens that way. It's kind of funny.
But when you see a couple and they look very much like brothers and sister, they're meant for each other because it looks like there is something there. I mean, they look like they're meant for each other because they match too much together. They match.
The thing I look at when I see a couple to determine how much of a match they are is usually how they treat each other in the presence of others. Yeah.
Oh.
When I see that they're generally have a very nice connection with each other, they're loving with each other, they seem to have this like very unique energy with each other that just feels good.
Oh.
That usually tells me a lot about their relationship. On the other hand, when I see couples bickering in public or
That's not good.
saying things about each other behind each other's back, things like that are big red flags.
It's already in the bad road, right?
Yeah, it's because these are little tiny instances of showing that they're deeply unhappy in the relationship.
Okay.
And I think strong couples, people that are really happy in each other's relationships, one important part of that is having boundaries around their communication and keeping it within each other. It's their relationship. It's not the whole world's relationship. So if there's an issue, they agree that they communicate that together, they share their emotions together, but not with the rest of the world.
Yeah, that makes me remind me of an organization called Big Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It's for kids who are born with single mothers, and they don't have a father figure. They don't know how men are supposed to act, right?
Yeah.
So they have the big brother who tells them this is what the man should act with the woman or whatever, with whoever. So if you don't have like a role model, how are you going to know how you're going to be masculine?
That's a big challenge. There's a lot of boys growing up in today's world that don't have that masculine presence growing up. A lot of boys are raised in single-parent households. Usually the mom is raising them, and it can be very challenging.
So they do need the big brother kind of thing.
I think so. I think every boy needs a masculine presence in their life to be able to, and not just with how to show up with women, but just how to show up as a man that can, share who he is, be really honest with people, share good values of how to show up and lead your own life, how to step into things that interest you, and how to, be able to lead your own life really. And I think that's where the presence of a masculine, someone older that's been around can have for a young boy growing up.
Right.
And when that's not there, it's hard.
And also, sometime in the first few grades, the teacher is usually a woman too. I mean, as they grow up, like in high school, then you have more men teacher. But the little ones, it's often a woman who teach the preschool, first grade, second grade, and then when they move to high school, finally there's some men teacher. I don't know if that's changing, but there's a lot more men figure in the higher grades.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, because it's been a while since I've been in grade school myself. But growing up, that was my experience as well.
Yeah.
Was a lot of my teachers growing up were female, and they were great teachers too.
Yeah. But you were born probably in a household where there was a father figure.
I did. My father, I was in my household. My parents divorced when I was about 9 years old.
Yeah, but you still were 9 years old. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already saw it before.
Yeah. No, both my parents, and they did the best job. I love both my parents.
Yeah.
They did the best they could growing up.
Yeah.
My father himself, he grew up without his father around.
Oh.
So when he was 3 years old, his father passed away.
So he didn't know how to act with a woman himself.
Yeah, I don't want to go that far, but his role models for masculine presence wasn't really there. It was extremely limited. He grew up just with his mom, his big sister, who was the oldest, and he was the youngest boy in the family.
Oh, so he didn't have a real role model.
He didn't have a real male, powerful role model that could teach him these kind of things. And so, he did the best he could raising me. And, I realized that I had some deficiencies in these parts of my life. I was struggling to really express myself. I was really struggling to remain present and grounded in the face of tension and express myself, express my boundaries.
Okay.
So that led me to discover that I need help in this part of my life.
And you did find someone to help you, or was it a counselor at school?
So this really happened more in my adult life later on. So like a few years ago, I started to feel that, the way I'm leading my life, I wasn't really happy with it. And that's really when I started pursuing and seeking out men's coach for myself. And I worked with a couple different people that really helped shape myself and helped me become more real in who I am and what I want. And that led me to create The Real Masculine because I enjoyed the work so much.
Okay, so you didn't have to go to school. You learned from other coaches.
I learned a lot from other coaches. Yeah. And I think the best type of learning is helping you reconnect with what's going on inside you.
Right.
I think our best teachers are our own intuition. I think we all have this powerful part of us that is our best guide. And growing up, we learn how to not trust it. And so by reconnecting to it and learning how to trust our intuition, we can leverage our own best coach and teacher inside of us and start to lead our lives.
So you designed your own coaching thing?
Yes, I did. So after I've gotten some great coaching over the last few years, I started getting better connected with my own intuition, and I built programs to help guys also get to better connection with their own intuition and help them become more aware of themselves so that they know how to show up in this world as a more masculine presence.
Okay, so that's very important because some people are, like you said, they're confused. They don't know what's masculine and what's feminine and what's real masculine.
Yeah.
So there's a middle of everything, right? I mean, a man is masculine and he could be also tender and nice,
Of course. So we actually have both energies inside of us. So as men, there's some masculine energy and there's some feminine energy. Yeah. So it's just that the composition is usually, for most men, they're more masculine energy, a little bit less feminine energy. And for most women, they have more feminine energy, less masculine energy. Okay. And there's some that are kind of balanced, like maybe 5-10% of the world is like 50-50.
Oh, okay. So how did you discover what you are? I mean, did you, from the get-go, you were real masculine?
Well, I really, truth be told, as I was growing up, I didn't have this idea or concept of masculinity yet, or even femininity.
Okay.
I just knew that I loved women, and I just knew that I was
deathly date them.
Yeah, and I just knew I was deathly afraid of them. I just was so scared of them at the same time.
Oh.
And so that was just my experience growing up. And it wasn't until several years ago that I started understanding these ideas of masculinity and femininity and realizing that I do identify myself as more masculine. I just didn't have a good sense of building that up yet. It was not very fully cultivated yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the purpose of, I guess, marriage is for the masculine to understand the feminine, and it takes a long time.
It can. You know, I think what creates attraction is that the masculine energy and the feminine energy are very polar opposites. Where the feminine energy is really about openness, connection, loving, tenderness. That is kind of the polar opposite of the masculine, which is more grounded, clear, direct. It's more of a grounding energy, as if, like, imagine a tree that roots into the ground, and then you might notice like the winds flowing and moving the branches. Like the wind is like the feminine energy. It's very flowing and light, free and open, and the masculine energy is very grounded, rooted into the ground, and that's where they kind of complement each other and create that nice attraction.
Okay, so how long does it take to kind of know the other person? How long does it take?
Yeah, I don't want to put a time on it, because I think it's more so about self-discovery. The more you go out and approach women by being honest and congruent and very authentic, the more experience you're going to get with understanding yourself and your own masculinity and your own feminine energy, and the more you're going to experience her energy as well. And the more experience you have, the more reference experience you get, the better you'll understand the feminine energy versus your own masculine energy and how they play with each other.
And what is we are 2019, right? What is a dating game now? Is it usual to take someone first for coffee, or someone first for lunch and then for dinner? What is the dating game?
You know, I found it's going to range depending on the people, but I see a lot of people do first dates as coffee or getting a drink, or maybe having some ice cream, or going to the golf course.
Something simple.
Mini golf. Yeah, something simple usually and light.
Yeah.
And if they like each other, they're having fun, then usually I find they'll maybe continue the date by doing something else afterwards too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like instead of just 15 minutes, it becomes an hour, and then if after an hour it becomes 2 hours.
Yeah, it can. I think it can go with the flow depending on if there's a good vibe there and they're both enjoying each other's company, then I don't see why not.
Yeah, it could be longer.
Of course.
Yeah, and if it doesn't go longer, it has to be the choice of one or the other.
I think so. I think at any point, if one or the other decides that they're not really interested,
yeah, they will
it's in their
tell
best
you.
interest to, yeah. I mean, it's the interesting thing. Not everyone is willing to, they're afraid to hurt the other person's feelings or create that tension. But yeah, I think it's the best you can do is to be honest, and that actually serves the other person, because it saves you time, saves them time, it lets them go out and experience their life without leading them on.
Oh, sure. So what do you think about people who do it online first and then they meet? Like Match.com, all those. They first get to know each other online.
I think they're perfectly great services. I don't see anything wrong with them.
Yeah, they see a little video of the person.
Yeah. I think that the limitation is on Match.com or Tinder or these other apps. The limitation is that it's more focused on the pictures more than anything, and then the profile is kind of secondary.
Oh.
And so that's totally fine, for a man, it limits his ability to go out and meet the types of women he wants. Unless his pictures are just phenomenal, he's in the top 10% of looks, then online dating would work really well for those guys. But in terms of most men, you know, if you are average or below or above average looking, well, the best bet you have is to actually go out into the real world and approach women, be the selector. If you see a beautiful woman you like, you can go and show who you are, show your vibe, show your energy, and you can give yourself much better opportunities to date the actual types of women you want, versus online dating, which if they don't like your profile, you're not going to be able to meet them.
Okay. Yeah, there's also more sophisticated ones like eHarmony, where they really do your profile deep. Like, how much do you want that person to make? How much education you want them to have? What is the religion you want them to have? They go a little bit deeper than Match.com. So then they match you after you have the criteria of education. Some people say I want minimum BA education, or some people say I don't care, and then there's the age criteria. So they go by elimination. So this person doesn't want anybody over certain age, then we're not gonna even introduce them, something like that. So it goes by elimination. It's like a computer program. They eliminate what the other person doesn't want. They eliminate what the other person doesn't want, and finally there's a match. And then they gotta meet, right?
Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with eHarmony. I know that's a little more detailed than other sites.
Yeah.
I just think with the online dating scene in general, I think if you're okay knowing that your options are going to be more limited in that pool, and you're okay with that, more selective, then that's totally fine if it's coming from choice. If you want to expand your options, the real world is the best place to go out and do that, because you can walk up to anyone you want and say hello and see what happens.
Yeah, but when you say hello, you don't know their religion, you don't know. And if religion is important to you or to her, there might be a roadblock there.
It can be, of course, and that's part of the beauty of dating. I think if these are certain values you hold that are really important, there's something you probably want to ask very early on in your interactions within the first few minutes, if they're that important.
If that's important.
Yeah, because you don't want to waste anyone's time. And I think it's important for every man and woman to know what they're not looking for and be able to ask the right questions early in their interactions to know, is there a deal breaker that I'm not comfortable with? Because if there is, then you want to walk away from that in the least amount of time as possible and move on to the next potential option.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, and also very important is the education level and the profession. Sometimes, some people are looking for a certain type of person.
I found that profession is a lot less important than maybe the purpose or passion behind it. Oh. So I think an engineer who is miserable in his job, but has a nice job, is going to look different than an engineer who's passionate about his job and who loves it and who talks about it in a way that lets him share his creativity with the world. Oh. So I think as long as whatever you do, you're doing with some sort of passion or enjoyment, that's going to make you more attractive, because you're doing and living something that's bringing enjoyment in your life.
Okay.
Versus if something you're doing is not, even if it's a high profile job, a VP of sales or something, but you don't like it, well,
it might reflect on the relationship.
It might reflect on the relationship. It might reflect on maybe the type of person you are that's willing to sacrifice their own enjoyment for money. These are all things that which makes the interesting part of the high profile job is not as important as how you feel about the work itself.
Yeah, because I remember seeing sitcom where people always say on the first day, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, or I'm an attorney, when they're not any of that, so that they don't lose the girl. But then she's gonna find out anyway that he's not a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, like if you lie, you're digging your own grave, honestly.
Oh, really?
Because the second, no matter how attracted she is to you, the second she finds out you lied about something like that, it's gonna instantly kill that attraction. She's just not gonna be able to trust you anymore. And trust is so important, both for men and women, but especially for women. When she can't trust you, or she loses sight of ability to trust you, it changes her whole perception of you, and it's hard to regain that trust.
So even if you have a job that is very basic, you should say it.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a basic job. I think for a man it's important that if he doesn't have what he wants yet from a job or profession perspective, but he at least knows where he's going or the direction he wants to go, and he's moving towards it, even if he has a basic job now, then to share that's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's okay on the beginning to start with a certain job and then move up.
Sure. I think the most important thing for a guy is find out what you enjoy doing, what you want to move towards, and work towards that, even if in this moment you don't have the job you want. Maybe right now you're an entry-level salesperson, or you work at a restaurant as a waiter, but you know that one day you'd like to work towards a high-profile job or be the CEO of a company, and you have some ideas, you're working towards it. That's beautiful. Then that's something that you can share with them. Like, you know what? I'm a waiter right now, and it's doing okay for me, but I'm really working towards this awesome passion of mine.
Okay.
And being able to share that with people is attractive.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So this is officially your job or something you do for fun?
No, this is officially my job. This is what I'm building, and I'm looking to help as many men across the world really become high self esteem, authentic men, not only for themselves so that they can be happier and more fulfilled, but for the women they love, so that
Ah,
people can have better, real connections with each other.
okay. So you started this company yourself and you called it the real masculine. So the first thing men are gonna say is, what is the non-real masculine?
Well, I think the non real masculine is this idea we've had maybe growing up that, like, man up, or boys don't cry, or boys shouldn't show emotion. This is kind of the toxic part of masculinity that's gotten a bad name.
Oh, the big rough.
Yeah, because I think there's a time and place for you to, set your boundaries and be firm.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's also very important that as a man, you're stepping into being yourself, being grounded, sharing who you really are, and sharing your emotions. These are a part of self acceptance. To really embody and become a strong, present, grounded man, you need to be able to own all the parts of you, including the ones that you're insecure about, the ones that you maybe are afraid to show the world, but you will still show it because that shows you can accept yourself. So these are all important parts of, I think, what healthy masculinity is.
Yeah, and also some men have temper tantrums, or because when they were growing up, as soon as they had a temper tantrum, they got a big hug from their mom, so that's their way of getting love, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. There's a lot of different ways that we learn how to get love, and we build these patterns in our mind from childhood. Like, that's an example as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we gotta be conscious that's what's happening.
Exactly. And this is where awareness is so important. Consciousness, like you said,
You gotta be aware that you're doing that because you're trying to get a hug.
yes, the more honest and aware you are with yourself, the more you can start to unravel these patterns that aren't really serving you as an adult. Maybe as a kid, at one point, they served you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't hate these patterns. We just accept them as for what they are. They served us at one point, but maybe as an adult male that's looking to build new, different relationships and is living in a different reality, those patterns are probably not
Too
going to work.
childish. They are childish.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And some men never grow up, right?
Well, if you don't gain awareness and if you choose not to take responsibility for your own emotions and your behavior patterns, then you'll stay stuck as a kid. That's
Right.
kind of how it works.
You stay immature.
That's right.
Okay. So, so I would say then the real masculine is a man who have grown to be mature.
Yeah.
Not to be like a child at home. Something. I mean, the woman doesn't want to marry a man that she has to bring up. She doesn't want to be the mother, right?
That's right. She doesn't want to date a man baby, right?
Like,
And I think it's important that the child side of you is the kind of the loving, free part of a man, which is still important for it to exist, not the immature, irrational one that is unwilling to accept his own behavior patterns and his emotions, but kind of the free-spirited child that still has that loving energy, that freeness to him. I think that part of having that kind of the kid's energy in the man is fine, but not the immature kind of temper tantrum kind of
Yeah.
kid that's still there.
yeah. So it's fun. I think you have a fun job. I mean, it's fun to see all kinds of personalities out there, but you can't tame them all, right? I mean, you can't tell a man what to be when he's already what he is.
So that's the interesting thing is we all have this concept of who we think we are, and that's actually the thing that I'm helping them to see is that that's not really true. This idea you have of who you think you are based on all your past experiences is not
It's not really true.
it's not really who you are. It's just how you've attached to these specific events that happen in your life and tied some emotions to it that make you feel this is who I am. So what I'm helping guys do is shine the light of awareness on all these different patterns they have to see that they're just patterns. They're not really who they are, that they can unravel these patterns and put new patterns that would make them more healthy, more masculine, more mature. And so I can't change anyone. They have to change themselves. What I can do is I can help guide them and ask them the right questions, take them out into the real world and help them feel and express their emotions. But ultimately, every man has to make that choice to take the steps that I show them they have to take. I can't take the steps for them.
Okay, so if they come to you for advice, they may as well follow the advice.
I think the best thing to do when they come to me is I'm going to ask them a lot of questions so they can understand their own truth. I don't want to give as much advice as I do help them understand what is the best path for them that they choose. And if that best path is something that I can maybe give some little bit of advice, that's fine, I will. But in most cases, I actually want them to come up with their own answers by me asking the right questions.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's like a consultation where they come to some realizations.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and then if they want more coaching from you, then you can take them on the field.
Yeah, and I have custom packages depending on the person. If they're not local, or they're somewhere
If
further
they're
away.
shy, if they're shy.
Well, if they're shy, we're gonna help them. We're gonna help them break the shyness. We're gonna help them teach.
You're not gonna do the asking for them.
Yeah, of course not.
No.
I think the idea of shyness is just another belief. It's not that some people are maybe a little more introverted than others, but I think everyone has the capability to have different parts of themselves be cultivated, including their social or more free-spirited or more expressive side.
Oh, okay. There's also the fear of rejection.
That's a big one for most men. I think for women too. There's this idea that if I put myself out there and they reject me, what will happen?
Nothing.
Usually it's nothing, but in their head it feels like it's something.
Oh, okay.
They have to go through it enough times to see that.
To digest it.
Exactly. That experience lets them feel it and see that, okay, it wasn't as bad as it is.
Should I try again?
Yeah. And I think the more they go out and do it, the more they express themselves, and they're going to get rejected, the more they will learn that it's not a big deal. In fact, rejection is a beautiful part of life.
You become stronger?
A lot more strong. It teaches you how to give your gifts to the world without having expectations for them to take it. Not every woman you approach and give your gift of, your appreciation of their beauty is going to say yes to you. And that's okay. You're just giving the gift.
Oh.
Some will accept it, some won't. So that the idea of this, rejection, quote unquote, is just made up to be this big thing in our minds, but it's really not that big of a deal once you experience it.
It's part of the game.
It's part of life.
It's
In
part of
every
it.
part of life, not just with women and dating, but with jobs,
yes.
with making friends, with every aspect of life has an aspect of potential rejection.
Okay.
But I think it's one of those things that why we think rejection is beautiful is that when you get a no, you get one step closer to a yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. They say out of 9 no, you get 9 no and then 1 yes.
In sales, that's what it's. That's
in
the
sales,
that's the sales.
I don't know what it is in the dating game.
It's hard for me to put numbers. It depends on the person, and I think the more they become congruent and authentic, really embody their natural essence, their masculinity, especially for men,
Yeah.
that number becomes higher and higher and higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. But you only need one, right?
If that's what you're looking for, then you only need one. Yeah.
No, but you said it becomes higher and higher. You don't need more than one at a time.
It depends. I find there's some men that want to have
More than
polyamorous
one?
relationships,
No.
which is okay.
Oh,
If that's
okay.
what they like, if they want to have 3 girlfriends or 4 girlfriends and the girls are okay with it, they're honest about it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, okay.
Some men want to date casually, and that's okay. And some want monogamous relationships.
Something serious.
Yeah, I think they're all beautiful as long as they're honest and clear from the get-go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you can coach them on any of these scenarios.
absolutely.
All right. So here it is, the heart. It looks good on black, actually. So it's Rooz, or is it Rooz?
It's Rooz.
It's Rooz. Rooz Yavari, confidence coach, and the website is therealmasculine.com.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aileen.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
I enjoyed it as well.